Just going to ask if, for the minutes, if we could do a roll call of who's on here, that would be helpful to us.
Okay, sounds good. So we're calling things to order for the work session at 2:05. We will begin with a roll call. I'll go down the list here. I'm here, Chairman Michael Pipe, Commissioner Higgins here.
Sorry, here.
Okay, Administrator Margaret Gray.
Here.
Director of Planning and Community Development, Ray Stelinas.
Present.
Okay, we've got Betsy Bart with the Planning Office.
Here.
We have Jillian Savage from the Commissioner's Office. We have Natalie Smith from the Commissioner's Office. And then we also have a guest. We're assuming that is not Commissioner Dersham. Okay, so that is not Commissioner Dersham, but we do have a guest joining us. Okay, and again, if Commissioner Dersham joins, we will regroup and let him know what he's missed so far. Is there anyone here for public comment for items that are not on the agenda? We have one item today. Is there any public comment for items that are not on the agenda, not related to the Notice of Funding Availability Act 137? Okay, we're hearing no public comment for items not on the agenda. We will go into our only item on the agenda, which is the Notice of Funding Availability for Act 137. And we will go from there.
You want me to start, Margaret?
That would be excellent. This is a continuation of a presentation that Ray and Betsy made several weeks ago, which was the follow-up to a conversation that we'd had just at the beginning of the pandemic. So we'd like to bring this to some closure and some forward movement with regard to Act 137 funding. So I'll turn it over to Ray and Betsy.
Sure. I'll start out, and then if Betsy wants to interject anything I may miss that's integral to the discussion, we can do that. As you know, I did two presentations on Act 137, a potential program for notice of funding availability within our Act 137 program. And we went over several items, including the background Act 137 at the state level, and then the county's original ordinance that was adopted. We got into some of our receipts that we receive and the trends that we've had the past couple of years with the collection of that information and the use of those funds that has been traditionally a rolling fund where we dedicate many of those funds towards first-time home buyers. There's been some other requests for sharing within the FAIR program with adult services. I know there's been other special projects that the commissioners have dedicated Act 137 funds to. I know there was a green build project in State College Borough that some of those Act 137 funds contributed to. Now it's come time that we've looked at some other counties. We sent a survey out to about 8 counties that have an annual or biannual program. And the examples I brought up at the last meeting included Northampton and Clearfield County as some of the good examples of an application process, awards that have been given to multiple projects, some award maximum amounts. As for example, Clearfield County includes a $15,000 maximum award for their projects. The one slide I left everyone, I'm going to share my screen. The questions that we wanted to raise. I guess I'm not able to share the screen, but some of the questions that we raised were, what type of fund balance would we be carrying over with this? And we're estimating right now a fund balance of around $431,000. And by no means are we 100% sure on that because of the fact that there's many moving parts with Act 137. We receive receipts monthly through the recorder's office. We also have payouts from people that have received first-time homebuyer grants or loans, and then we have those applications that are new that have been on the high end for first-time home buyers the past 2 years, almost exceeding 20 applications per year.
So Ray, you should be able to share your screen now. Jill just gave you permission to share if you want.
Thank you. And this is just the screen I had at the last meeting. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so the first question was related to some of the other uses that we have traditionally used Act 137 for, first-time home buyer. We want to do the updated county needs assessment, which was last done in 2005, and we're working on an RFP to hopefully pursue that. We also have funds that have been donated to the Center County Housing and Land Trust for their continued work in affordable housing. And as I mentioned before, we've matched fair funds with Act 137. Well, one of the other questions that came up was announcing fund availability. And I look at this very similarly to our liquid fuels grant program, where we contact stakeholders within the county who may be interested in applying for those funds under an affordable housing project that they may be proposing. The other question that was raised was other counties do an annual or biannual basis application. Is that something that we can afford to do in Center County, to do an annual? It based on the fact that we may have some maximum amount of grant monies available, and looking at how that fund is replenished monthly, and with the activities of first-time home buyers may be something that we need to juggle as far as how we determine that final amount each year to grant under 137. We think that the review period and the application, Betsy and I can definitely develop something for that and have a process, again, very similarly to liquid fuels grant application, where in the grant application for liquid fuels goes out in October, and I think the commissioners or staff makes a recommendation to the commissioners before December on those. So I think that could work very, very much in parallel with that program. I think a cash match by the contributors or the applicants would be a positive for matching Act 137 for their project. I think that would be something in our criteria we'd want to take very seriously as an incentive to grant those funds. And of course, once these projects are submitted, we would vet them and go through the process of recommending projects to the commissioners and giving our reasons why based on the criteria that we're establishing. And as far as a grant agreement goes, we know that's necessary. We would probably work with Betsy Dupuy on a sample that we have from Clearfield County that they use. I think instead of reinventing the wheel, let's take a look at that and possibly establish an agreement between us and the grantee for the project that's in question. So those are some of the items I just wanted to put out there as far as what we left our meeting at with the commissioners, and see if this is something that we can work with to propose an Act 137 Notice of Available Funds program within the county, and go from there. So just wanted to give everybody an introduction. And Betsy, I don't know if I missed anything or if you wanted to add anything.
Well, I guess I'm really just, it would really be nice to have a set dollar amount that we would be looking at for projects not to exceed. Obviously, we have had this request, which I just literally missed a call from the one gentleman who's been requesting a large amount. He called all three of us, I believe. So if there's someone in the wings waiting right now to know about this funding, is something going to be said that would allow them to realize this is a process we're going through to find what we can use? And if we have that criteria in place, then we have reasoning behind the funds we release. Looking back through the files, I saw a lot of things that they gave money from through the past years. A lot of 25,000, 15,000, 20,000 to some of the organizations around here. And Robert Jacobs that was here, he would write a letter, and it looked like he not only informed them they received the money, but then sent a letter to the controller to release those funds. I assume there was an application or some kind of a grant to go along with that, but I haven't found those. Is anyone aware how they did it in the past?
It was on a rolling basis. As projects came in, they would request it to us, and we would just approve them. So there wasn't really, again, there wasn't an open application process with a set timeline. So that was how it was done, Betsy.
Okay.
So if we sign off on things today, let's say we say everything looks good, we'd like to have the notice of available funds out the door for stakeholders to apply. What would be the suggested time frame for receiving applications, reviewing them, and then announcing the award recipients?
That is a good question, Michael. I think in terms of reviewing the applications, I think if we gave a 30 to 60-day period, I think that would be something that we can work with.
No, yeah, and I think it's more about, I appreciate the fact that's there, but I mean, would you want to say August 1st that's going to start, or I should say not necessarily time frames, but actual dates?
Okay. I think something like a September 1st might be reasonable. That's, I think, close to coinciding with towards the end of our, going towards the end of the fiscal year. I know Betsy will have an idea of where she's at with our first-time home buyer requests. I know last year at this time, we were probably in the high teens, close to, that's a good indicator because that's $200,000 out of the Act 137 for first-time home buyers. And that gives us a better indication where we're at. I think in the fall is a better time.
I have 8 of them so far to date.
Okay, just to get an appreciation of when that would look, but because I think that's the next step when this is brought into I think the next step would be to bring it into a commissioners meeting to announce the program and then to have some dates attached to it so that developers or people who are interested in applying would be able to, know what that time frame is going to be.
So we could actually put this on to introduce to the Board of Commissioners next Tuesday or the following Tuesday. We have space that we could do this on the 22nd. I think, Ray, it's in ready to go shape, correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things we need to tweak, but it's getting there, getting very close.
We could schedule it for the 29th with an eye toward then releasing it, collecting information, and then an award based on your recommendation September 1 around what the balance in the account looks like. We'd be 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. Well, yeah, almost 3/4. If we said September 30th, we'd be 3/4 of the way through the year. But
so September 1st would be the actual announcement of projects.
so we would want to come back into a Board of Commissioners meeting with the announcement, a list of projects, and allow the commissioners to select, or, maybe based on the requested amounts, maybe all projects would get something, or maybe half the projects. We don't know because we don't know the dollar amounts of the projects. We don't know the amount in the Act 137 fund that you would put toward this, but that would be determined based on response.
Okay.
Well, also just thinking about, you're saying, are they going to be awarded annually? We still have a TBD there. Is this the best time is there a better time to be putting this out there for projects where developers would want to have this information going into next year? Or do we want to just do it as a pilot to see what we get? And then if need be in 2022, we could then do another award window as well.
I like the idea of a pilot to see how it's received and what kind of a response. And then based on response, we could look at a date on an annual basis so that people would get used to that date, knowing when the application period would be and the awarding. I think it would be great for our community to know that at this time every year, you can request these funds and this is when decisions are made so that there's no question.
I would agree. Okay. Any other feedback or thoughts on this? Are we comfortable with having this being brought in for a Board of Commissioners meeting upcoming to finalize and have it announced?
Sure, that's fine.
What's the sum in the account right now?
Steve, we're estimating right now about $430,000 from our discussions with Travis when he reviewed the spreadsheet information that we've retained since Linda was here. And there's some other funding that may be added to that. There was a fair match that was not needed by the Adult Services Department, around $34,000, but we don't know if Travis has accounted for that to add to that balance that we think is there.
I think one of the questions we have to ask is, what amount do we want to leave? Do we want to leave any seed money in there for emergencies, or do we just want to divvy it all out? I mean, before we jump into this, we kind of have to figure out, this is, I get what we're trying to do. It's just, we got to move forward knowing that, there may be projects in the future that need sort of instant funding, and it's a matter of whether we want to spend every dime every year.
No, from my standpoint, Steve, I don't see this as basically us drawing this down. Like, let's say we get, 90,000 in 2021, that we need to get 90,000 out. I think it's what the problem it's trying to solve is we're getting applications on a rolling basis. And I don't know if all developers have an opportunity necessarily to know that, hey, there's funding available for affordable housing. It just basically puts everybody on an open playing field. But I mean, we could get applications requesting 500,000 and we only give out 50. I think my thinking would be that if we're doing it this time and we do it in the next few months, that we would be a little bit more conservative on the allocations, just to see how things go.
I agree. Okay.
Okay. Okay, great. So just in terms of wrapping up the dates, what would be, Margaret, what would you suggest would be the best Tuesday to bring this in?
We could do it next Tuesday or the following Tuesday. Ray, you tell me when you're ready. We can wait till the 29th if that would help, or we can do it next Tuesday.
Well, the way I view it is if we can prepare the final criteria, final application, and maybe work up some information to potentially have on the webpage once it's released, the 29th would be better for me, I think, if that's okay. If not, then I could adjust.
So, Mike, Commissioner Pipe, do you want to do this in a two-step where Ray introduces one week and you approve it on consent the next? Because if that's the case, we could present it Tuesday. There would be the week in between to get everything in place and on the website with consent on the 29th. Or we could just do everything on the 29th, or we could do intro on the 29th, approval on July 6th.
I think we could do it all on the 29th. Since there's going to be a few weeks or a few days at least where there's going to be, before we actually open it up for people to apply, I think just doing it one fell swoop on the 29th would make sense. Okay,
that sounds good. There've been several conversations, opportunities to review, discuss, so that makes sense.
Yep, and we can notate, and at the meeting, you can even notate we can notate the fact that we've held these work sessions so people understand that how it's developed. So, yeah.
That sounds fine, Ray. If that's okay with you as well. Sounds like it is.
Yeah, that is fine with me. Thank you.
And I would say in closing that if we have any current pending applications, or let me say it this way, if we have any interested parties that are requesting funds from us right now through Act 137, notifying them of this, letting them know about the notice of available funds and when this will be available for them to apply would probably be the best response at this point.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a call.
Absolutely.
I have a message right now from a potential applicant. So if you would like me to respond to him with that date, I can do that.
It could be anybody who's currently asking for funds. It'd be good to let them know.
That would be great, Ray. That would be helpful.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Thanks, Betsy. I think we're all good unless there's anything else to discuss on this.
I think we're good.
Okay, all right. Anything else to come before us during this work session?
Not today.
Okay, we look for a motion then to adjourn it at this time.
Motion to adjourn at 2:25.
Second.
Any final discussion on adjourning? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning do so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.